Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Mic in our beautiful MusicTown studios here on the second floor of Hockeytown in downtown Detroit. I'm Pam Rossi. Every week I do this, bring in some local artists. We get to sit down and talk and hear some music. And this time around, hello, Mr. Mike Vial.
Hello, Pam. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. It's been a while.
It has.
It's been a while since we had you on a different show. So,
Yeah.
Welcome. Appreciate you coming in.
It was a great drive into Detroit from Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
Good excuse. I'm on spring break as an English teacher too.
Okay.
So
that was true. We were trying to figure out because you do do have to teach. You can't get excuse me, kids, I need a sub today. No.
Yeah. Well, if we did that, we'd be pretending. I'd use the business day, not a sick day. I'd do it legit.
Yeah. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks.
And yeah, I think the last time I had you on, we were trying to figure out the exact date. I talked to so many people. I was like, I needed to really look back at my records, but it's been quite a few years. I'm thinking 6 years at least.
I think you're right.
Somewhere.
It's cool that you have I imagine you must have like a huge archive at home, don't you? And like you can it's like dates and math tell a story of like where we were at that
Yes.
time in our life, and now we're here together. And I'm like, I'm a dad.
Yeah.
And I'm married. I have a mortgage, and
Yep.
6 years on the road. And like when I first came in to do radio, it was probably like one of the first radio things I ever did was with you.
Okay.
Great chance,
Okay.
And I just like it wasn't super long ago, like a decade, but it feels like, man, that was a lot younger Mike
Well, a
Vial
lot can
coming
happen in 6 years.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's-
I'm just going to say 6 years. It could have been 7 years.
yeah,
we don't know,
somewhere
but
in
we're
there.
going to
We'll-
go with that 6.
we'll
But
check.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
We'll be
think-
exacting later, but
I think at that time you decided to quit teaching to go into music.
it's true.
Just was like, okay, I'm going to stop my teaching and go pursue this dream of mine in music.
Yeah, and the dream's still going. Like I'm back teaching, and this is actually how it was supposed to be designed. If obviously, if you luck out and you write the right song and you get the right team behind you, I mean, I would have taken that road. I mean, I would have. I love performing live, and I love the road. I really do like traveling. It was my way of seeing the country, and I really hadn't traveled a lot. But when I was a high school English teacher for 8 years south of Flint. But my wife, she told me right before we got married. We knew we were going to have a family, so if you're going to do it, you got to do it before you have the kids because they.
Smart wife.
Yeah, absolutely. And she quit her job to be a full-time writer, and that career has grown. It looks different than the way she might have imagined it. She's doing a lot of editing work, working with branded content, still writing creatively as much as she can as we are young parents. But I'm really glad I did it. I tell my students this too because I was 30 when I quit. Like it was a little late in the game, but I spent 6 years on the road. I played 1,000+ gigs. I've crossed the Mississippi. I've played pretty much every state east of the Mississippi, and I'm glad I did it. And I knew it felt right at the time when I wanted to go back and take 220 gigs a year and cut it down to 40. Like now I can do it on my terms.
Yeah. But I think you probably had to experience that and see what you could do and how far you can go with it. And
absolutely.
yeah.
You just have to go for it if it feels right. And now that I'm a parent, I don't want to miss the baseball games. I opened up for Ellis Paul at the Arc in the middle of that cycle, and he warned me. We went out to eat after the gig, and he's a folk hero of mine. I was listening to him when I was in college, and he was on Me, Myself, and Irene's soundtrack, his song, and he warned me. He's like, Mike, if you're going to do this is a road business. I had already known that, but you need to feel it. You need to emotionally experience it. And he's appealing to my pathos, okay? He's using not logic, but emotion to really get to that young parent, because I was a new dad and at that ARC show. And he said, you're going to miss every kid's baseball game. You're going to have to take the gig when they come 3 weeks before, and you're going to miss every gathering with friends because you're going to be on the road. And you got to love the road and do it for your art, too, and have an understanding family.
Yeah.
And I had already known that, like, okay, well, after 5 years, 6 years of this, I'm going to definitely want to get back in the classroom because I love that energy.
High school,
and
you said?
I teach high school English, and I have the summers off. So, like, Mike Gentry and I just did a tour last summer, and I did maybe 7 states.
Wow.
On my terms,
Oh.
and then I play the residency in Ann Arbor, so I can play once a month, and then I'll do some festivals, and I'm doing it on my terms, and it's working out really well.
Good for you.
Yeah. It's okay to be in obscurity and just occasionally have a little moment as an artist and then come back down to reality. It works out really well.
Well, and it's not like you gave it up, which is, that would just be to me resentful. It's like I have to give up my craft and what I really have a passion for. I mean, you've got two passions going, but the music part is a big part of your life. So that would be hard to just say, okay, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, there is no balance. I mean, even when you're doing it full time, I don't think anybody finds balance at this. I think what they really find is how did the one cello player put it? It's like being on the Ed Sullivan Show, and your act is you juggle the plates on the sticks. I keep coming back to this analogy because
Yeah.
you run over to this plate, so then keep the stick going. So you're juggling it. Oh, I got to keep this one before it crashes. It really feels that way, you know.
Sure,
And now with
that would be exhausting.
well, yeah, and you got the family, and you got the gigs, and then you've got the full-time job.
And then you have to do your craft as well, right?
And then the house has a flood, and then you find out that you need a new sub pump, and
yeah.
you know, there's always something.
Life
so.
can get in the way sometimes.
Yeah, the dog gets a tumor, and you're like, oh, it's benign, but there's $800, and you're really glad to have health insurance. That's a good thing, you know. Like,
oh gosh.
yeah, I don't need to be playing at this moment in Madison, Wisconsin, to 30 people.
Yeah.
Today, I'll hopefully do it in July.
So how much do you really go as far as traveling when the summer comes? How far away would you go?
Yeah, I think touring happens in cycles, so that it works for my life. So this year I'm going to take it off. I believe, like what Adele said, you got to let people miss you. You know, we live in a world where we're self-documenting every minute and every moment of our lives, and we're keeping so many people in a circle on social media, and this has been really refreshing for me to just kind of connect to my classroom, and then be present for my gigs when I'm doing them.
Yeah,
But I'm taking a break in a way. Like, I'm not on a hiatus. It's not like that. But I'm not really that active right now on social media. I'm posting a couple times, and I'm posting on my blog occasionally, and I'm playing 40 times a year. And I'm not going to tour this summer because I'm going to probably get laid off at Farmington High School. We're losing a high school. Harrison's going to close. And I knew that going into getting hired. But it's a loss of place for my students, so they really need me present.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what life's going to look like after June. So I'm staying close. But I'll do an East Coast thing. I'll do a folk festival and go Rockwood Music Hall in New York. Or I'll go keep in the Midwest like I just did last year. And
do you take the wife and kids when you do those things?
I don't. No.
Okay.
I mean, I'll take Natalie if it's a cool experience and it'll be part of a vacation. But you don't take your wife and your wife doesn't take you to work when you work at the auto
Good point.
body shop. And she doesn't take me to the office when she's working on the Forbes story. So I really got to be present at the gig. I got to be on the minute you walk in there.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're like, Daddy, when little kids running up.
And
on stage.
if I'm lucky to do Summerfest again in Ann Arbor, I've done it about 5 times. And my kids, it's their first experience watching Daddy or Arts Beats and Eats. Ginny has gone to 2 of those, and she's rushed the stage, and she's waving to everybody in the crowd.
Ginny's his daughter, who's 4 now.
She's 4.
So,
She thinks she's in the band, and it's cool. It's cool to do that once, but like on the road, I can't imagine how like the Ragbirds did it when they took the baby out.
You've got to be focused on what you're doing, and when you're thinking about the kid, and that would be a little tough. But
yeah, and you're still dad from the stage when you watch your kid have a tantrum, and somebody's got to take the child out of the performance area or to the green room, and you can't get that out of your head. You want to, you know. It's great to get away. This is my way of getting away. Like, I'm on spring break, and I'm here with you, and I'm not changing a diaper right now. It's a great thing. This is a great thing. I'm not grading essays. My Taylor guitar is in my hands, and I'm talking to you.
Well, let's hear a song then with your guitar in hand. Then
this is about my daughter.
Enjoy your spring day.
And after she was born, we have a picture of me writing it when she was taking a nap in the bouncer. And I made the mistake of looking up how much college may cost my children in the future if they choose that route of their lives. And I had to write a song to calm my nerves. So watch out for student loan payments in verse 2. But it's really about the little neighborhood where we live in Dixboro, and the old church, and the baseball field, and the one-room schoolhouse that's still there.
It is a cute little neighborhood.
It's a beautiful neighborhood we have. And now Ginny's 4. This song's 4 years old, but now she's walking down there with me. We just got her first bike. And so this is called The World That's Bigger. It's about Ginny in the neighborhood. don't know how big the world will be when we take it slowly down the road to the baseball field by the one-room schoolhouse with the paint that's peeled and the church won't share the answers to the secrets in our prayers for you. Sing 'em out, sing 'em strong, beat our doubt, helping you belong to a world that's bigger than you and me, a world that's bigger for and the flea, a world that's bigger than the length of the sea, a world that's bigger than you and me and love. Virginia, we don't know if we have to break the bank when we send you off to the school with the best college rank for the subjects of your choice that make you say that the world is bigger than you and me. The world is bigger for and the flea. The world is bigger than the length of the sea. The world is bigger than you and me. And the root of our heartache is a mild surprise. With these gentle words we try to calm your cries. You were born a spring baby during the last winter's snow. Even Mother Nature doesn't know. Doesn't know that the world is bigger than you and me. The world is bigger for and the flea. The world is bigger than the length of the sea. The world is bigger than you and me and love. Virginia, 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 Virginia.
That last note in there. Nice.
Thank you.
Now, is that the title track of
Yeah.
your latest? Okay.
Yeah.
Your latest, right?
Yeah, the
Okay.
latest. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
my friend Mike Gentry helped me record it, and I wanted to do it the way Nick Drake did his last record, where it's pretty much live. It's the way you would have saw somebody in a coffee house or
Nice.
a house concert, or even at a folk club like the Arc Theater in Ann Arbor. And I always have felt better performing in a studio live. I've always trusted the producers, and I'm glad I had the experience of just letting them make decisions behind the mic and the studio board. But when it really comes down to it, I'm a live performer. I've played 1,200 gigs now, and I've spent more time on a stage than I have recording after 5 projects. I've got a history now in the studio, but I never felt right separating my head from my hands. And listening to a click track for the full time really felt like it took something away from the energy of a song.
Yeah.
And I'm a person who writes at the kitchen table the classic way. You just humming and finding ideas and forgetting to go to the bathroom for 5 hours because you're just in the song. You're like Chex Mahai, the psychologist,
really into
says
the
you're in the
song.
flow,
Yeah.
like a gardener getting their hands in the dirt. So we did this record live. took 110 takes, took the best 10, and you're done. You know, you
Yeah.
got to mix it. But it was just me in a cabin, my
I love
relative's
that.
cabin, and you can hear the rain if you really listen to one song. I ain't going to tell you which one. We hit it pretty well in the mixing, but it was raining, and that was part of the take, because I was going to do the whole thing live.
That
It's
would
like-
be cool. It's just to be in the cabin. That the great atmosphere and surroundings to really
It's just
put you in a nice
yeah, it's just
mood.
cedar wood everywhere. My father-in-law has cuckoo clocks, and we didn't think it through that one that they kept chiming. Like there's like 15 or 20 of
That
them.
probably added a few extra
So
takes.
you
right?
really, yeah, you really had to get the take in before every, like, we had it scheduled.
Every quarter hour.
And they're like 1800s.
Okay.
You know, so you
Oh,
got to be
fun.
really careful. Well, I guess I'll say that we took a few off the wall, but we didn't tell them. But yeah, it was a really great experience. Took 3 days and just hanging out with my buddy, and we brought his recording gear.
I was going to ask you how long for 150 some takes.
Yeah,
so 3
it was
days.
like a vacation up in the cottage, and just
That's
do it 3
actually
days.
quite a. In 3 days, that's pretty darn
Well,
good.
just vocals and guitar at the same time, and you just got the mics, and it's
Yeah.
you just do it, and then you go take a break, get some coffee, do it again. And at that time, my stamina, I wasn't teaching, so like I could play. Like I had done a St. Patrick's Day where you're trying to pay the rent in one day, and you can do it. You know, if St. Patrick's Day falls on a Sunday or a Monday or a Tuesday, that's a musician's dream. You're getting that like weekend level gig, and I would play for 7 to 9 hours in one day.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
I would be rough after.
I was going to say that's got to hurt your voice.
Oh yeah, you're rocked.
Oh, my
it's
gosh.
not a smart idea. But
Yeah.
you know, like, you're trying to do what you do, and you start in Lansing, and then you're in Brighton for 3 hours, and then you find yourself in Wayne County for the end, and people are so drunk they don't know
They
that
don't-
you're
yeah,
not
yeah.
any good. And,
Is someone up there playing?
but like my hands can do it.
Okay.
I have the stamina to play hours and hours and hours, and as long as you give it a variety, you're not hurting
Right.
yourself.
Wow.
So you just do 3 takes and try another song, and then 3 takes, and that's the way I like to do it.
So how many times, I don't know if you even noticed or took note of, how many times the first take, you did the first take and you do like 3 or 4 more and then you actually went back to the first one? Did it happen a lot?
Gentry can comment on that because he's got really great notes. And the challenge was always like, well, the vocal take was really great on the first take or the third take, but your guitar playing was a little better on that take. And you always got to trust the vocal over the guitar. And that's a hard thing to do as a guitarist first. But people relate to the emotion of the vocal. So that's why I needed to bring him with me to trust those decisions.
Yeah.
So there were a few. There were a few where, yeah, it's actually the first one. You got it. Or it's usually the third one.
Third one?
You
Okay.
you get the willies out, you get the levels right.
Yeah,
And you're just like, oh, we'll do a pass. Damn Fine Day was one of those where it was the third take or second take, but we had done 5 or 10, and then you go back and you're like, no, we had it.
Yeah, I would imagine that happens a lot, just like, because especially the first or, second, whatever, you just like, okay, you fall into this song and afterwards like, well, I guess we can take another take.
Yeah.
And your mindset isn't as, this has got to be the one,
If you get a good one, everything's just bonus. It's like dessert. So it actually takes the pressure off, and when
Yeah,
you're doing it
yeah.
live. And I don't know if him and I knew if I was going to really be able to pull it off till we got that third song done on the first day. And it was the end of the night. We were kind of tired, but I was like, let's just do one more round. I think I got 3 more in me, and we nailed it. We knew we had a good take of one of the songs, and it gave us the confidence in the next morning to be like, yeah, this is going to be okay.
So
Gonna be
were the
real.
acoustics good in the cabin?
I thought so. I thought it was great, but we're so lucky this time to have digital. We did it digital. We didn't do it
Oh, okay.
analog.
Oh,
We didn't
okay.
have a
Okay.
tape machine in the room.
Okay.
But it was great. It was really good. Not perfect, but I think perfection can be an enemy.
and I think people
Takes a-
like that too.
Yeah.
That it's live. This is how, this is really how he sounds, and
yeah, it's a very honest record.
yes, honest, that's a good word. Honest record.
And
Yeah.
it is like you're hearing me right now. And I'll do another band record. I'm probably going to do one once we figure out, where am I going to be teaching, and hopefully I'm still staying at Farmington because I'm enjoying my time there. But you just never know with the school
Yeah.
closing; it's a loss of place.
Yeah, yeah.
And it reminds me, just like being in Detroit, like my parents, their schools are all closed, and my school's still there. Like I went to Divine Child. There's still a rock there as a memorial to my track coach who had passed away. There's a sense of place when your relatives go to the same school, and I'm really trying to create that sense of place for my students right now, whether it's through their art and making sure there's something they're doing right now that captures that memory. Some kids wrote for
Nice.
the Anne Frank writing competition at the museum around the block. and I'm fingers crossed that they get in the
Okay.
top,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you want to create a sense of place. And even if the school itself might not still be there 10, 20, 30 years from now, I think that really matters for your hometown experience.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
we're out in Facebook land here. Just teacher, a potential teacher job. Mike's looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
You never know.
And you stick with high school. I mean, that's what you're
Preferably.
looking for. And
Yeah.
you teach history. A lot of history.
I teach language arts, but I do
okay.
have the history minor. But I have only done writing and literature
okay.
and reading, teaching, and
Thus, a songwriter.
right. People always wonder why I didn't do music, and I think I did teach music at Expressions Music Academy for a short while when I was touring and trying to get off the road a little bit,
Yeah.
and controlling my schedule like a freelancer. And I've taught guitar for 5 years, but I really am enjoying being able to wear two hats.
Uh-huh.
Tony Bennett talked about this once when he's a painter too. He's known for his singing, but he's
Right.
a fabulous painter. And he said it's really important to have two hats because it really does fuel you. So when I go into the classroom, I don't want to teach music. I want to use music as a way to get to kids to get hooked into a theme. So if we're reading Richard Wright's Black Boy or Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five or Toni Morrison's Bluest Eye, like I'm using my music all the time, but I really like taking a break from it with them.
That makes sense.
I really appreciate not teaching music anymore. It was just I enjoyed it, but I get more out of teaching English actually. I want to perform the music and I want to teach something else.
Well, on the flip side of that, in your songwriting, you use your history lessons and things
or
to
the
do your
poetry
songwriting.
lyrics, the sense of chunks and shifts.
So kind of not
It's
necessarily teaching it, but you use it in your songwriting.
Yeah. I write my best stuff when I have an audience in mind that is beyond myself.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't have to be a lot of people. It could just be the family. But the early days of the first two EPs, the audience was the people who were my students, the young adults. I wasn't that much older when I got hired. I was 22 when I took over my first classroom. I was the youngest on staff for the entire career at Holly High School. So we listened to the same music, and I was able to kind of tap into those early emotions you feel that are so raw. And now the music's just more mature. I'm just a dad now. I'm coming from a different place.
Not just a dad.
Well, no, I am. I'm okay with it. Ginny, what am I? You're the butler dad, and you're the dad. That's what you are. Mama's a writer. You're a butler and a dad. That's what she's saying.
Butler.
I'm a princess and Al's a king, and this is what she thinks at 4.
4-year-old, yeah.
You don't think I'm a guitar player? No, you're a butler. Oh, okay.
That's funny. When I read that about the history and your songwriting, it reminded me of when I interviewed Al Stewart. He does a lot of his stuff is about history. He's
My
a
friends
huge
are his backing band right now. The Empty
oh
Pockets.
okay
Yeah.
huge history buff, and
Yeah.
so he's got several CDs out. Nothing but history songs about history.
So good. They're great
Yeah.
records. Yeah, he's going to be at the Arc coming up. I think
okay.
I'm going to go. It's coming in the spring, in May, I think.
Yeah,
he's
when
got
it's-
such a
it's just
great
like-
music story. Just
yeah.
the bigger hits in the 70s, but then this catalog of like what you're describing.
Yeah. Sometimes because they're hits, Time Passages and You're the Cat, but you don't realize
Right.
how much more an artist really has sometimes, and blame it on us radio. We play the same songs all the time, unfortunately, but yeah, that's so cool.
It's like that for all art. I mean, we know Jackson Pollock from 3 paintings, but the reason there's a reason why it's the long tail. There's something that raises up. And even for me on a small level, A World That's Bigger is a song that helps pay the gas to Harrison High School every month. It's cool to get a check in the mail.
Yeah.
And that it's small. It's a small little streaming in iTunes, but that's the one that people gravitated toward.
Yeah.
And then it's a long tail of the rest of them, and you just send them out. It's like
you never know.
Yeah, it's like Tangled Rapunzel, and you've got the lantern, and it's going to go in the air, and you don't know how far it's going to go, and you have to be okay with that when you finish a piece and send it off.
And
I'm quoting Disney now. See, I'm just a dad.
yeah, you're
Pam.
a dad. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh man.
All right, Mike. How about another song?
Yeah, I'll play another song. The record, it's 10 songs. The most recent one called A World That's Bigger that I did the title track of. But the songs they all have a pair. And there's a musical motif between those two songs. They're all sharing a partner.
Did you intend that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't intentional when I first started writing songs, but once I had the idea, once World That's Bigger and this next one I'm going to play called Little Drum, it did become intentional. So, like, I
Okay.
would look for a musical motif or a lyric theme that I could link with something new.
Oh, okay.
So there's 5 sets, and they do. If you listen for them, they're in there. So, like, I'm not stealing the same idea on, because I'm running out of ideas, which songwriters are known to do. I'm intentionally like, so for this one. There are 2 different places of becoming a parent, and I'm going to use that same double stop in a different key because it's like you're joining your partner on this experience and you're building your family. And this one's called Little Drum.
Okay.
Give me a minute. Give me another minute of your time before the time has passed us by. I'll still be thinking of the girl who had the greatest smile and shared it with the world. Brought it to a boy who didn't say a word. Tell me a story. Tell me another story of your childhood before the cards fell down. I'll still be searching. I'll still be searching for the perfect chords and melodies and piece them one by one into a little song that comforts us with love. Find me an hour, find me another hour to this day, and you can pick the game we'll play. Soon we'll be listening to the sound of a little beating heart, our little drum. Can you still hum that song your mother sung when you were young, chasing your sister in the sun? When you were young, chasing your sister in the sun. Give me a minute, give me another minute of your time. Tell me a story, tell me another story of your life. When you were young, chasing your sister in the sun, chasing your sister in the sun. Like our little drum.
Nice.
Thanks. Yeah, my wife has an older sister. I'm an only child, so this has been a really neat experience personally to have 2 kids. And I wrote both of those songs in the period of when we were waiting for Ginny to arrive, my oldest, who's 4. And then I wrote World Is Bigger after she was born, and I was dealing with sleeplessness and that first-time parent. But
Mhm.
I didn't finish Little Drum until years later. It was like a song that I didn't even share with anybody. I'd written it. I was trying to write 52 songs. I had a little songwriting club, and we were, during the Polar Vortex years ago, we were trying to write a song a week.
Wow.
And that song came from that
Yeah.
experience of trying to force myself to write and picking from, moments of your life. And we had gone through 2 miscarriages.
Oh,
And then with Ginny, they had found a shadow on her heart, or was on her brain. My wife remembers it better and has corrected me.
Either one is
either,
bad.
Yeah, it was during the first ultrasound, and they're like, "Don't worry, but we're going to need to do a lot of ultrasounds to make sure that shadow disappears."
Hmm.
And it did.
Okay.
And it was,
Phew.
yeah, right. But you
Oh my
didn't know.
God.
You don't know. And it was just a very stressful time.
Yeah.
But the little drum is the heartbeat of hearing her heart and
Okay.
watching that shadow on her brain
Oh.
disappear, get smaller and smaller. She's getting bigger and bigger. But I wrote it thinking how Natalie was was a younger sister, and then we had the second Alton, baby Al. He's the same age difference as my sister-in-law and wife are.
Mm.
He's the same age difference with his older sister. So while I wrote it thinking about Natalie being a kid and Natalie's childhood experiences, chasing her older sister in the pictures, I feel so different now. Like I haven't really played the song much in the last year. I'm coming back to it for the first time in a month, and it feels like I actually wrote it for Ginny and Al, not for my sister-in-law and wife. It's cool how songs change for
Yeah.
you.
And when you listen to it, or any song, when you listen to it, and your first impression, as just happened with you, it changes. And even as someone who didn't write the song but listening, you can hear it one time and think this or imagine something, and then you hear it, down the line. It's like, oh, that now means this to me.
It
Different,
does.
whatever your life situation is at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the sign of an important song, or
Yeah.
whatever a good song is, because it doesn't need to be deep, but songs connect to memories for
That's
us.
all it has to do is connect to somebody.
Yeah.
That's the main focus of a song. If you can connect to somebody, doesn't matter what it means to you as the writer, but if it connects to somebody, whatever it means to them,
Right.
then it's a good song.
I hesitate to overshare sometimes about songs. I mean, I'm kind of
Yeah.
coming from the folk sensibility of sharing stories and letting that be a part of the performance and the show. But there's some songs where it's better to just let it be a secret. It's some songs to let the story be what they made for someone else, rather do reader response.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let them go, new criticism on it.
I agree with that.
Or personal experience, actually. I guess it would be reader response.
Because what you tell them, what it means, or what it really relates to,
Yeah, it could
they
ruin
may
it
not
for 'em.
have any connection to that.
I learned that early. It could really ruin it for them when they
Yeah.
believe something about it for you personally, which may or may not be true, and then it's made a personal connection for them as a listener. That's why
Absolutely.
Pearl Jam stopped doing music videos after the first record. They're like, we don't want to lose that for the audience, and I have always remembered that as a young music fan of my favorite band in the '90s, making a conscious choice to respect art and doing something that most people weren't doing. And I'm
Right.
just not going to do that.
That's like going into an art museum, the DIA, and you see a full page of text next to each piece of art that explains what it's supposed to be. It's like, no, I want to look at this and just imagine what I think that artist was doing or thinking at the time, or what that means to me.
Yeah,
So,
you can't
yeah.
go back to that first time
Yeah, yeah.
experience once it's been.
And I've done that. I've listened to a song and it's like, I've had in my head, I can relate it to something or whatever. And then when I see a video, it's like, that's not at all what I thought.
Correct.
That's like, well, that doesn't make sense now. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I imagine Al Stewart's "Year of the Cat" is a song that's kind of like that, because it captured a moment in time. But for me, I'm coming to Al Stewart's later, decades later, okay? And it's connecting to the moment of where I am now,
Yeah.
too. And that's a really cool thing that art can do.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another timeless. Any kind of a song, it can be timeless.
Right.
No matter if it was, back from the 50s or, the 90s.
Yeah, I had
They have
Dr.
difference.
Foster, a professor at U of M, Flint, come talk to my class once, my AP class, and he talked about how art is always having a conversation with other art. Past, present is trying to figure out the future. So Shakespeare is talking to Toni Morrison, or Toni Morrison is talking to Shakespeare. The art is always a conversation of humanity. It's a long thread. And that's why motifs and storytelling has reoccurring themes and reoccurring structures that might be in our bones and DNA. I think that that's something special about art. We often, we as a guitar player, you know, in our American Western music, we only have so many keys and we only have so many chords, and it's really not about always having to do something completely brand new. You know, Frank Zappa. Okay, like I think it's okay to take that A chord and that D chord, and revisit it in your moment.
Yeah.
You know. And which is hard for me to do as a guitar player who wanted to be a jazz player, is you're always like, I want to be as impressive as important, and, you know, and then you become a dad and you're like, oh, I got to slow down.
I just need to breathe and relax.
People just want to hear a song.
Yeah.
You know.
That's funny. We talked about earlier, before we went live here, we were talking about, you know, the music out in the digital world, and, you know, because you have this new album out, and, you know, you get stuck with CDs, and it was an interesting conversation. It was like, wait, we got to talk about this. You know, how, you know, you've got all these CDs and it's not as big anymore to people, and, you know, how do you determine, you know, do you have the CDs, you just do digital? You know, it's just a fine line for a musician.
It's a business and an art and a science. Yeah, it's everything at the same time, and it's changing quicker than you can react to it. So you know, what we were talking about is a lot of musicians and music fans overly focus on how much do you get paid per stream, and that is a real number, and I pay attention to it. And I'm not a huge, I never had the moment of being on a Spotify playlist, and you really have to get those numbers up. But
It's a lot of pressure.
But I own 100% of everything, so I can look at the numbers in a small way, and I see how all these little, you know, the mechanical royalty comes in here 6 months later, and I own the publishing and I own the songwriting. So it's cool to be able to break it down and see all these little four divisions of little tiny increments of income. But more importantly, figure out that it's about time. So when I used to play at the Arc, you know, if you sold X amount of CDs, it took an exchange with a person that was like a minute, 2 minutes, and it was a very real experience.
Yeah.
Hello, I loved that song you played. Maybe this person knew your music before you played there. Maybe it was the first time. Maybe they came for the main act and you're the opener. But that exchange took minutes, and it was a real experience.
Right.
And you pass the CD to them, and they pass you some money, and that only took seconds.
Yeah.
Well, now, if you're getting half a cent a stream, do the math. It is not the same amount of time, and it's not the same. Like the 100 people that buy it is now going to be X amount larger, and that's a real thing that, like, I couldn't play that game anymore. It was stressing me out. I wasn't going to sleep at night trying
And
to
it can
worry
be a
about.
game. That's
And
a
you're
good way to
investing
put
the
it.
money to try to. You have to meet more people,
Yeah.
which changes the way you're going to write.
Really?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. Because if you're trying to, you know, so this is a Seth Godin idea, that famous marketer who's a genius. if you shoot for everybody, you're shooting for average. But the minute you want to go just for a smaller audience, you have more freedom, and you let them find you for what you like. You got to have haters out there.
Yeah.
You got to have people click, I don't like this on YouTube, the thumbs down,
Yeah.
because that's an emotional reaction.
Yeah.
And hopefully more people are going to click thumbs up. Okay, and
You don't want thumbs
they're
down,
not even
though.
they're not even gonna click it. They're just gonna experience it for that moment. So it's cool. It's cool to be just an artist where, like, maybe only 2,000 people here know who I am, and 200 people come to the Arc now that it's growing, and not have to worry about that stuff. I mean, you still worry about it. You don't want to drop $30,000 and
Oh,
then go
no.
in the dark. But I know musicians who do
That
do
much?
That. Oh, 50.
No.
They'll easily put in 50,000 on a record.
No, really?
Between the beginning and the end and the publicity of it. And I've never done that. I mean, we did the last record on 1,200 total. That was the meals, that's the CDs, that's the licensing
that's
fees.
good.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's a number I can figure out.
Yeah.
You know, and
I know they were expensive to put together, but I
they're
didn't
really
realize.
not that expensive, you know. I mean, you can start. I'm a person who just start with 1,000, start with 300,
Yeah,
and then once
yeah.
they're gone.
Yeah.
Sold the last CD in West Virginia last tour, and it's gone.
That was, we were talking about, it's like, okay, I've sold my last one.
Well, why would I get more? I sold the last one in West Virginia in the middle
You know,
of,
because then you know, move on to the next
by
one.
the
and-
Blackwater Falls. That's a cool place to end it. It's a new chapter now. So, yeah, for you young musicians out there, just keep going, figure it out, play around with it, but don't go into debt to the place where you can't
Yeah,
overcome
yeah.
it.
Good
It's not like a
advice.
student loan or a mortgage. Unless people are looking at you that have some interest, you know, and they have movement of contacts. That's
But you have to
real.
make sure that they
You know?
do have the influence.
And you
that
got to
they're-
make sure they do.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yeah,
You know, you can
be
figure
duped
out,
if
though.
you're not. So, all
Yeah.
right, Mike, I'm going to jump to the Pam exam here.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Is it multiple choice?
No.
Oh.
Well, yeah, some of them
We
are.
got the SAT coming up. I've been teaching kids how to
you got
narrow it
that
down
teacher
to the
brain going here. You know?
narrow it down to the right one. There's some context clues to the diction questions, figuring out the word
Okay,
choice.
all right. Yeah, I forgot. Being a teacher, you got that in your mind. Oh my god! Yeah. Oh my gosh! I'm giving an exam to the teacher. This is good. The first record you ever bought and first concert you ever attended.
Yeah, it's Pearl Jam versus. My dad got Bob Dylan, probably Free Willin' Bob Dylan, or it might have been the one with the crows that are
Okay.
dead on the trees, dripping everywhere. I can't remember the title, but I remember that lyric.
Yeah.
And we were on that CD club where you would sign up the dog, and you get 10 for
Yes,
a cent.
a penny,
and then
yeah.
you'd sign up your mom, and you sign yourself up, and you just be waiting for the postman or postwoman to come. And CDs were just like coming at us, and it was amazing. So the first time
Forgot about
CDs
that, yeah.
came were Pearl Jam and Bob Dylan. And my dad's like, you got to listen to Bob Dylan. I'm like, I couldn't stand it. I was like, I didn't know what this was. I'm 13.
Well,
And
you
now
know,
I
that
can't.
13,
Now
yeah.
I love every Dylan
Yeah.
record. My dad.
A
won me
13-year-old
over.
hearing Bob Dylan. Yeah,
I
that
haven't
would
listened
be-
to Pearl Jam in a long time, but I listen to Dylan every year. Like, my dad won me over.
And so the first concert you attended.
Live, 1995 or 4. Well, it was Pine Knob then.
Yeah.
With PJ Harvey. But the one I remember is John Mayer. Okay, like I got to see John Mayer at the Blind Pig. I saw him pull up in his broken down van. They loaded in his Fender Vibro King. I asked him what amp he had. I had to go buy one. We got to see him in the front. He looked really thin. The record was out, but it was just building, and I drove from Kalamazoo to get there from Western Michigan. And we got to meet him, and it was cool to be with 400 people, and he had no idea it was going to sell out that day. You know, it was amazing. And to watch
Wow.
his career grow, because I
Yeah.
went to like 5 of them in a row. And once it got to the Michigan Theater, then I haven't seen him since. I'll probably go see John Mayer again, but
How long ago was that? Well, before
2001.
You really, okay.
That was
yeah, before he
2001.
really hit it big.
before he hit it. That was
Yeah.
it. Like once I started going to shows at the Arc and Blind Pig and being able to meet them after, there was no going back
Yeah,
to big
I
shows
love
for
that
me.
because you'll find artists, you'll see them there, and then a few years down the road, they could be huge, and you're like, thank God I saw them, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a more intimate type of a concert when you
Right.
can see them that
You know,
way.
with
yeah.
Dick Dale passing away, my dad and I are kicking ourselves because he would go to the play of the Magic Bag every tour. And there are also those artists that, like, they're still going to play to thousands in other cities and other places, but they're coming back to the clubs.
Yeah.
And the music is maybe even better now, you know?
It's got to be a little more exciting for them. You know, it's like they know these people in this small place are really there for some, you know, to enjoy some good music and you know,
You hope
and
so.
explore-
My dad
explore.
says they got to be doing it because they love it, but I think sometimes it's a job, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and Dick Dale told openly he had health issues. He was explaining though that $3,000 he had to make just for the stuff, his bag, you know, after his. Yeah, it's heavy, but you know, most of them. My dad's gonna go see Smokey Robinson this weekend with my mom, and they're gonna go. And Smokey's doing it because he loves it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, that's the you know a lot of artists. It just keep doing. I mean, what is
Ah.
it? Well, you mentioned Tony Bennett earlier. It's like what is this? 90-something-year-old still touring.
Because
and-
what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
This is what you've been doing
Yeah.
since you were 16.
Yeah.
Learning to sing on the corner.
I mean,
Like,
that's their passion. That's what they love to do. That's
Yeah.
what they want. They look forward to getting
there's no
up every day to
retirement
perform.
this. Like I'm going to be playing this guitar when I'm a grandparent. Like there's
There
no
you go.
retirement to this.
Have you ever had a frightening moment on stage?
Oh yeah, I have half-baked ideas. Those when my lesson plans fall flat, and you just be like, "Oops, that wasn't a good idea." And it happens on stage too. Like I was playing a song called Ghost Rider, which is actually dedicated to Nick Drake, and it's on a 12-string. It's open D, like Joni Mitchell tuning, and it's just very, very huge sound from just one thing. And I would loop it and build it really big from the stage, and then I would time it so it would turn itself off, but then I would be playing in the audience. And I've done it at the Arc, and it's cool, and I'll stand on a chair, and I'm standing with the audience, and the sound just disappears, and it's just me, no mic, playing the same guitar, I stand on a chair. Okay, well, I get this really cool theater gig in Columbus. 6-string concerts saw me at Folk Alliance, and they gave me this great opportunity to play and open up for a major folk artist. I'm playing a couple hundred people, and I'm going to build this thing up and do this thing. But I didn't practice it, Pam.
Oops.
Yeah, I didn't run through it. So it's not a chair. I'm trying to stand on a theater like seat that moves.
Oh, that
and there
folds
I
back
am.
up.
So it folds back up, and
Oh,
there
no.
I am, and I'm trying to I do the thing, and I loop it, and it's big, and it's got this beautiful lyric about Nick Drake and life and art, and I step out, and everyone's watching me. I stand on the chair, and it falls, and I slip, and I catch myself, and the sound disappears, and I just had to make a joke.
Oh, no.
Like Seinfeld.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
No,
but
no,
I could
you
just
should
picture
laugh at this.
I could picture your leg going, like down in one leg.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was everything like that. And I was like, I just made a joke, and I was like, okay, well, this was supposed to be cool, but now you have that to remember. And there was one lady who was blind who came to the show, and she didn't know what was happening.
Oh.
She came up and talked to me after. I had only sold one CD at that show. I think I really everyone's like, man, we're not buying the guy from who fell. And the folk artist Diane was just so good. There's like, I'm glad I didn't follow her.
Okay.
But the lady came up and bought. She's like, what was that about? Why was everybody laughing for a minute?
Oh.
I was like,
Interesting, yeah. Huh.
I tripped.
Nothing major, just Hey, if you were a spice, what would it be?
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
My daughter wants to have cinnamon on toast every morning, and there's never enough of it. Dad, I need more. So you just
Well, it's
just
healthy for
dumping
you.
it. Yeah, it is. It's tasty. Is that a spice though? That's more of
Yeah, no, that's a spice.
That counts.
Yeah, no,
I'm
that's
so
definitely a spice. What is your guilty pleasure?
Watching Gilmore Girls.
Oh yeah,
We'll go back to that. Like
we talked about this earlier.
I talk about my wife's book because I always compare it to David Sedaris meets Eat, Pray, Love, and my wife's memoir is a coming of age story, and she self-published it. And it's like Stephen King said in his book on writing, when you start out, you got to be okay with rejection. He would put a nail in the wall, and he'd fill it up with rejections. And as soon as you fill it up, you got to put another nail in the wall. He describes that on writing his memoir. And my wife went through that. But what's cool is now you can self-publish it. And now if you've built up a little tribe, you can put it out there. So we were like that first level of Kickstarter campaigns before that was a thing. And she put the book out. And it reminds me of that emotion of reading or seeing Gilmore Girls in the later seasons, because there's that moment where the mom goes on the hiking trip, like that one memoir, that big long find yourself hiking trip.
Yeah, Reese Witherspoon,
and
The Wild.
Just like Reese Witherspoon's movie based on that. And it doesn't work out the way you picture it to, and that's exactly my wife's book, going to Sweden to be a nanny on a cult farm.
All right.
Oops.
All right, Gilmore Girls.
Gilmore Girls. Little name drop for Natalie Berg. You should go check that book out. Swedish lessons.
Okay. Fill in the blank. I'm really good at blank. I'm really bad at blank.
I am really good at connecting with people in a classroom and finding their story and making it a part of the lesson. I am really inexperienced at cooking. And I do not swing a hammer in my house. My wife does all the house projects, put up the ceiling fan.
Natalie does that?
Yeah, Natalie does all that. I am worthless with a hammer or a saw or a Phillips head screwdriver. So it's
That's
really
fun.
great that I have somebody who can do that.
There you go.
I'm good at cleaning though.
Well, you've got to be good at something, so I'm sure. No, you're good at songwriting and teaching. If your life were laid out in a jigsaw puzzle, what piece would be added next?
That piece is blank right now. We haven't picked it up and put it in there. Or we might even be finding it. It's lost under the couch of life, and we don't know what you're going to find under there yet because we just don't know when Harrison closes. I hope I can stay there and teach this little suburb of Detroit area. It's a cool place, but you don't know. I knew when I got hired there. I had to get off the road, and when you try to explain, so I quit my job, and I was going to be a full-time musician. I played 1,200 gigs, and I toured for 6 years. And they're like, oh, okay. That superintendent or principal then says, that's interesting. Well, tell us about your classroom management style. They just blow right through it.
Yeah.
And it was hard to get back. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be to explain 6-year gap in your resume.
Oh, yeah.
I did teach music, but that doesn't count really when you're trying to do English.
But obviously, you got a job, so
somebody left unannounced, and they needed
That's the
somebody
thing. You never know.
there's
got to be an opening.
Blessing.
So, yeah.
Because I thought I was going to go back to playing bars for the whole year and just wake up with the kids and then go play a 4-hour bar gig to try to pay the bills again and do some cool gigs too. But it's always 20% of the calendar.
Yeah, not enough for
No.
that. Yeah. If is there a quote you live your life by or think of often?
Two star-crossed lovers take their life, doth with their death bury their parents' strife. Romeo and Juliet is not a story about love. It's a story about how violence begets more violence. I come to that in this time because we're going to come to the election in 2020, and we've got to do it better than we did. I'm not going to get on a soapbox. I have to be careful about that as a teacher because you always have the soapbox. But
Right.
if I can comment about themes, is we've really got to remember that emotion does recreate more emotion. It does. Whatever you put your attention toward, that is what will grow.
Yeah.
And we've got to find a way to cross the aisle. And Shakespeare's story is that. It is that. It's two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers would take their lives. It's not a love story. It's a power, violence, and it is people making a decision in the moment in young adulthood that they've watched violence around them, right? Isn't that what we've got going on right now? The kids are watching us,
Yeah.
adults. We can do better, and we will do better. We're figuring it out.
I'm just amazed how you quoted all that.
Well, when you teach
Your
it 8
teacher,
years to
yeah,
freshmen and try to get them to be interested in iambic pentameter of Elizabethan English that sounds like another language, some things still are in your head.
How about another song, Mike?
Okay, let's do one of those that are slow or fast. What mood are you in?
I'm in the mood for you to play. It doesn't matter.
I'm going to go slow.
Okay.
Yeah. Or no, or are we going to go fast? Oh, I played it. I think I played this years ago when you let me come on the radio, and I had just written it. So I'm going to come back to it. It's called I Just
okay.
Want to Be Your Last. It did make it on the new record because we did it once before, and it was bad. And I just took it and made it disappear. I recorded it to the click track like the producer wanted. Did the vocals separately, and it was a dumb move. No. I knew this song needed to be live. So we got it right in the cabin. It's called I Just Want to Be Your Last. But I'd written it right before I came on the radio that years ago. 6 years ago, we said,
I
right?
think we're going with 6. I think it was 6.
Sugar goes well with coffee like the day mixes with night. I might be a little different than you, but we go together right. You treat me quite better than I've been treated before. I don't want to sound trite, I just know that I know for sure. We all live with regrets, we shouldn't care about the past. I don't need to be your first love, I just want to be your last. I just want to be your last. You said you had to kiss a few frogs before your prince appeared. Well, I've been waiting for you like the sun waits for clouds to clear. It's been raining for what feels like years. And the whole time you were always near to me, but that's how it goes when we all live with regrets. We shouldn't care about the past. I don't need to be your first love, I just want to be your last. Your last. 'Cause when I finally found you, finally forgot my past. My past, which was the preface before you. So when I met you, I'd say at last, at last. I used to think that love at first sight was for fools. I hope that it's okay that I broke a few of your rules. We have all been hiding scars under our hearts. I've been told healing ends after true love finally starts. When I first saw you, I first thought, at last, at last. When I first saw you, I first thought. We all live with regrets, we shouldn't care about the past. your first love. I just wanna be your last, your last, your last. I just wanna be your last.
Wow. Like that. That was some fancy finger work there.
Thank you.
Do you have, I mean, it was like, man, you really get your fingers going there.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. You know, I
Little
thought I was going to
workout.
be a music major, and it's better that I'm not, because I was very shy leaving high school and found my public self through teaching.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
when you get those rejection letters from the music schools on the same day when you're 17, 18, it's, you know, you're like, oh, what am I going to do with my life? And you figure it out. It's
Figure
like
it
a
out,
bird
yeah.
pooping on your head, and you get a new idea. And I'm just fortunate I can do both.
Yeah.
You know,
Did you have actual guitar lessons, or did you?
Oh, yeah. I taught
Okay.
Trish Muraz, guitar teacher in Detroit area.
Okay.
She was part of the Dearborn Big Band. There's a jazz band. She went to Wayne State, and she just was one of the best teachers I've ever had in my life. And it was 5 years just learning how to play with her with instruction.
Well, it's very,
But not
very
like
impressive.
the formal way that you take lessons in band. I came into band to get out of math class by junior year, and they were like, "Where have you been?" And well, when I was a freshman, I came in to try to join his jazz band, and then I was an idiot and played the drums without permission and got a detention. So I was too scared to talk to the band director for 2 years. And then junior year, he doesn't remember that. And Chris Blackmer's like, "Where have you been? We wanted you in jazz band. You should have been here."
Yeah.
Because I was the only one who knew the jazz chords and could readable music. But I practiced what I liked to practice. I didn't like to practice what would get you into music school. And that's why I'm a songwriter. That's why I'm not really a studio musician as a
Okay.
session player.
You do your own thing.
Yeah, I do my own thing.
Yeah,
Like, it's
yeah.
hard to follow me. I've got weird rhythms, and
Hey, but it works for you.
it works. Yeah, because I am okay with just being me.
Nothing wrong with that. Any last words you'd like to say, Mike?
No, it's just great to be here in Detroit right now. This is
Yeah.
a great thing going on here. It's just great to be a part of this experience. I know, like, Acoustic Ash was here. I know a lot of musicians who have been able to be on this
Yeah,
radio show,
yeah.
and it matters. Like, we are doing something together on an afternoon, and I'm going to go to John King Books, and it's just another seed.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks
Great
to-
stories.
Thanks
and
to Ryan and
yeah.
Is it Annie?
Annie.
Back there?
Annie back there.
Thank
yeah.
you so much for getting me water and making me feel at home here.
Yeah, we love having musicians here. I mean, that's the whole thing about MusicTown is we just really trying to promote more of musicians, and especially my show and some of the other shows. It's just like local. We just
Yeah.
really want to help.
Well, we got to connect more because we're
Yes.
bubbles.
Yes.
When you think of Chicago, it's this huge city. We should have been that. It's Detroit, and it's
Oh yeah.
and we're figuring that out with the story of how do we bridge. Like, my friend's going to play at Otis Supply. Carrie McFerrin's going to be there. I'm going to be playing at 20 Front Street and just north of here in Lapeer. Beautiful listening room in May. And then people are going and sharing shows with Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids and Ann Arbor. And
Okay.
we really got to bridge those gaps.
Yeah.
As
There's so
music
much talent
scenes.
here. It's like
We're
help-
very
help
insular
each other.
sometimes.
Well, I'm trying to do my part here. So.
Well, and you are. It's working.
I appreciate that. So again, thank you so much for coming on. And a best place for people to find you for their music and your music?
Yeah, MikeVial.com. Spotify, Apple Music. It's all up on
VIAL.
VIAL. I'm a medicine vial, not evil. Not evil. Container of music.
There you go. Well, again, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Music sounds great. And this,
Thanks.
you played stuff from the new album.
Yeah, I did the
that's-
whole newest record.
So it's all
Just like
available?
you heard it. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just me
okay.
on guitar. It's-
Perfect. I love that. I love that. It's really gets intimate with a musician, and how they're feeling with the songwriting. So sounds good. So again, thanks so much. And thanks to all of you out in internet land. We appreciate you tuning in and watching as well. So until next time, for another edition of Behind the Mic here in our beautiful studios in MusicTown, I'm Pam Rossi. And by the way, we're going to do another one tomorrow. We're having a bonus tomorrow, so another live Facebook, and tune in for that one. So I'm Pam Rossi. Have a great week.